You're listening to the Major Pod Network, the only place where your favorite toy store, card shop, arcade, theme park, and arena are all on the same block. Scratch that major itch.
This is Tony Chimmel, and I'd like to introduce the hosts of the Game Marks podcast, George Feis and Johnny Clash.
Welcome to the Game Marks podcast presented by the Major Pod Network. I am Mr. Anything is Feasible, George Feis.
And I'm the man they call Johnny Clash. And today we are playing Double Turn. How is this game going to hold up? Will we give it a play it forever?
Woo!
Or a future endeavor?
You're fired!
And please make sure to subscribe and leave a 5-star review on both Apple Podcast and on Spotify. Stay connected with us on all forms of social media at Game Marks Pod. And do not forget, you can get early and ad-free episodes of this podcast for just $5 a month over on our Patreon, patreon.com/GameMarksPod. Now, John, let's address the I don't know, it's not an elephant in the room, but this is not a very timely episode. We're recording this in the past because as you may know, this is the baby Clash has joined the world. The new member of the podcast has joined.
We prepared ahead. If we're actually recording this WrestleMania weekend.
Yes.
So you could imagine this is a couple weeks ago, I guess, for the time you're listening. Maybe even a month or two ago. I don't know.
Yeah. Depending on how excited the baby Clash is to get here.
That's true. We started early today so we could both go enjoy NXT Stand and Deliver. We could both go. I'm sure you're just ready to watch the Islander game tonight along with WrestleMania, just like me.
Yeah, there's not enough
Who
TVs.
knows? We could even be the Stanley Cup champions by the time this comes out.
Fingers crossed.
I'm going to predict it's going to happen. Definitely not a first-round knockout by the Carolina Hurricanes.
Oh, when I have first-round knockouts, or we'll do the Islander standard, where we will get as far as we can to the point where every fan has hope, and then all of a sudden they're just like, oh, and then we just get absolutely
crashing down, and it hurts.
Absolutely
inside.
Get crushed in the finals. Yeah.
But anyway, that's why we are sitting here playing. You heard some cool interviews the past few weeks, but we are back playing a game, and I'm ready to dive into this one because we had a lot of fun playing it.
Oh yeah, it's very different kind of game. I feel like we've talked a lot about the desire to have a wrestling game like this, and a lot of people have called this game out to us because it's come up in questions of the week and soft locks and things like that. It's like one of those wrestling crossover questions that always comes up. Like, if you could take wrestling and cross it over into another style of game, what would you do? And a lot of times we talk about like bringing wrestlers over into other sports games and stuff. But another one that always comes up is kind of this like Smash Brothers, like beat 'em up platform fighter style. So, and that's what this is all about today. We are talking all things Double Turn. Double Turn was released November 6th, 2020 for Windows, Mac, and Linux. It is available on Steam and itch.io, and it was developed and published by InWave Labs. In 2020, though, it's got some stiff competition here. You've got AEW Double or Nothing Casino, AEW Elite GM New Japan Pro Wrestling Collection, The King of Fighters All-Stars, and the game that we have played available in the backlogs, WWE 2K Battlegrounds.
I always seem to think that Retromania was a 2020 game, but it was 2021. We just saw it in 2020. What the only like main console release we got in 2020 was 2K Battlegrounds. Everything else is mobile. Yikes.
Yeah.
Not a game we favored.
Well, it's that same kind of that play type that we've heard and we've talked about so many with so many other games. It's good in short bursts. Like, you're not going to sit there. Like, you can get invested in a full on 2K game where you're
I'm invested.
Well, because you get the character selection, there's the My Rise mode, there's GM mode, there's so many different options. And with Battlegrounds, you're either just going through the story mode or you're just doing like some pickup matches, which are fine and they're fun, but there's just not that longevity.
Yeah. And I mean, out of all of these, well, I don't know if Double or Nothing Casino even counts. But out of all these, I would go Elite GM as the rising star. But we got Double Turn as well. I feel like 2020, the pandemic, the shutdown was kind of big for the indie developer because they were able to sit home and really focus and work on their games. We saw Markout come from that. We saw Retromania come from that. We saw a few others. It's great. It wasn't great, but you know what I'm saying. It was great for
the silver lining of an otherwise really shitty situation. Was
definitely not great. As
people had some more free time to focus on some passion projects that they may have been putting off otherwise.
But let's talk about what this game is, because if you're familiar with, say, a Brawl game or a Super Smash Brothers game, or like me, I had
Multiverse.
I had the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles version of it, which was the one I favored over Brawl because I was so terrible at Brawl.
Oh, what was it? Was it PlayStation All-Stars? Was that the other game?
I think that was one,
You could find us like Kratos or Ezio.
So this is really just a party brawler game. You could pick between 2 to 4 players, and you go at it inside wrestling-themed arenas. Now, I'm glad here that everything is heavily wrestling based, because we saw games like Rumbleverse where you might look like wrestling on the surface, but it's not. Like, nothing here is... I could even go as far as saying Guacamelee had wrestling in it, but it wasn't a wrestling game. You were just a luchador.
Yeah, there's a difference between something being a wrestling game and something being a wrestling themed game, I think. And maybe that's how that works.
But I'm happy this one, actually, you're in a ring all the time. There's no like corny, cheesy places to go. You're in a ring with a Jumbotron and
a lot of things that are wrestling adjacent. There's, we're going to talk about the match types and all the match types and the different combinations of matches that you can create. Like, all of that is just solely, strictly based in wrestling.
I think the key here is to realize that this is a party brawler. Yeah. And it's meant to be played with people, because there's not a lot of meat on the bone otherwise.
That's the real draw. It's the same as I don't know. There's a lot of people that I'm sure think that the story mode in a Smash Brothers game
I did it in Brawl.
It's fun. It's got its place, but the longevity, I feel like that's going to be the theme of today's episode. The amount of playtime that you will put in going back and forth over and over is always going to be in that versus mode, whether you're playing online, you're playing locally with friends. Like, that's really where the fun and the that kind of crazy, chaotic, enjoyable play style comes into play with brawlers.
I also think that's what hurts this, because it's only a Steam game. It's not on console. I could see maybe some people sitting around a couch playing these games and whatnot, but not really sitting on Steam playing these over and over.
Well, it does have remote play.
It does, but how much can you play it? That's what I'm getting at. But let's actually talk about the gameplay here and how it plays, because it's pretty simple. You have a strike, you have a grab, you have a throw, and a block. And that's really it. And you have a kind of a little double dash type animation. It doesn't really do much.
It's I think it's called a wave dash is what it's called in Smash Brothers.
Yeah, it doesn't really do much for you, but yeah. The objective is to use your signature to take down your opponent, and that's when you get a fall in the games. And the pinfall is only a 1 count. You're not button mashing to get out of 3. Signature, done. That's a point. They're only 3-minute matches, so it makes sense. Now, the signatures themselves they're very cool animations, but they're kind of hard to hit once you figure out what you're doing, because you could jump around. You have to hit them the right direction, the right level, perfectly. If they're up on the platform, you're not going to really get to them.
I think that's the mechanic of this that I struggled with the most
because I was just dashing around you.
Yeah, it's not even so much the dashing. It's just the height of some things. Like, you have to be pixel perfect with the jumps to get. You could set up a match where it's cage, ladders, and tables, and you can jump from the ladders in the ring to the outside, but to get from the outside back in, you have to be like pixel perfect on like how you landed in. And it's
I get that though.
Oh, absolutely. It's like an extra little element, but it was just something that if, you're not expecting it, that's the movement is a little crazy.
Right. And we'll talk about the bottom. Now you have your HUD on the bottom of the screen. Doesn't take up too much room. It's not too much in the way. No. It has your character, and then it has a meter that once that meter fills, that's when you get your signature. It flashes and says press X or press whatever key to do your signature. There's no questions about it. It tells you exactly what to do. And then you have a little fist next to your name with your falls. Yep. So if you get a pinfall, you get a little fist.
And it's beautiful. It looks great. It not only is it compact and you know exactly what it is, you get the artwork of your character, the animation that happens within your stamina or attitude bar, however you want to call it, is great. The presentation for the HUD in the general scope of how much space it takes on the screen it's chef's kiss. I can't talk today. Chef's kiss. Picture perfect.
Yeah, I said when we loaded it up, it reminded me of like a Marvel vs. Capcom or even like an old school Mega Man game, which I loved so much. It's got that feel to it. Of course, you could compare it also like the versus screen to like a Street Fighter or something. But for the look they're going for, obviously Smash Brothers. It's a very cool, very familiar feel, even when you pick up the controller. Or did you play on controller or keyboard?
I played on controller.
Is it a keyboard also? I would assume it is if it's a Steam game, but some of them aren't.
I think it is. Let me double check what it says in the store.
But like picking up the controller for the first time, it tells you what to do. You could switch, like you could invert the bindings and whatnot. You could select like your character profile. Very easy to pick up, very easy to do. It's only the face buttons and the L and R. You don't even have to use like a high-tech, newer controller. You could use something else if you like.
It says full controller support, which makes me think that it is both.
All right. And I think we were both on an Xbox controller, so that works. Now, talking about the actual game modes here, we said before it's 2 to 4 players. You could also play solo play, but there is a battle royal where you survive in the ring against waves of 20 other fighters, which would have been a lot of fun in did they have that in Brawl, like Smash Brothers?
It's endless mode, I think it's called.
Is it? Okay. And then the gauntlet where you fight against the full roster in back-to-back matches, and there's only 4 members of the roster, so I guess that as long as your energy doesn't go back up, that seems like it could be fun. But if your energy resets every time, that's probably fairly easy.
Yeah, I feel like that's part of the challenge for a lot of there was an endless mode back in the day in like Tekken 3 or Tekken Tag or whatever where you could play through that way, and at the end of every stage you got a small like boost of your health back, but it wasn't like a full
Yeah, I think that was the same with like slobber knocker matches and all that.
Yeah. You get like a small boost to help you through, but you weren't like resetting every single time.
You know what was fun? Horde mode in Gears of War. It was just waves of bad guys. Like it would start with the easy ones. Like you would just
there's something like that in Left 4 Dead too.
Yeah, then it would like put the bigger bad guys, and it would just keep growing and growing, and you would like reset every time.
What's the name of that mode?
Horde. HORDE.
I almost want to say that it may be the same name
possible.
for Left 4 Dead.
It was kind of like zombies.
Yeah, I want to say it's the same.
Eventually, you would get like the bigger bad guys, and you have to kill, and it was cool because those maps were small, and if you died, you died.
So I wanna talk about the, we touched very briefly on the art style for the HUD, but let's talk overall about the art style because it's beautiful. There's a lot to it.
Yeah, it is.
Everything moves, everything feels alive. There's a lot of motion throughout the entire the game. The sprites have nice idle animations. The crowd moves. There's lighting effects. The big Tron with the match type, the time, the score count, everything about the artistic style that was used for this game is just, it's beautiful.
I 100% agree with that. That's why I like these games that only have like a few developers, because I feel like this is a team
of like what, 2 or 3 people?
It was a team of 3. We're going to get to that in the Did You Know. It's a team of 3, but mostly like one creative guy here. And you really see like one style. I like one style of art coming through.
Yeah.
Right?
It feels more cohesive when there's one artist that's working on the entire thing. The only times that I've ever noticed where smaller teams are a little disconnected, I guess is the word, is that when 2 people have like a unique vision for how things should be.
Oh, we
handled.
would be the worst developers.
Oh you and I have very different visions of how things should look, but and then they try to do the thing where they combine. They're like, yeah, your style we'll just figure out a way to mesh it with mine. But this one graphic artist handling this, it's beautiful. Everything, the shading on the sprites and the shading on the actual like character select images is such a next level detail that not a lot of like pixel artists use. It's great. It's fantastic.
Great. Let's save it for when we get into the art style here. Let's go back to the match types, because you got standard, elimination, Iron Man, scramble, and mayhem. Now within those you have like your ladder, your cage, your table, and then you have all of the above where they're all in a ring, which I think is the most brawl like because you could jump on everything.
Yeah.
Standard's just what you would expect, the standard match. You go for 3 falls. Elimination, they're all very similar. Like Iron Man's timed. I think the Scramble only one that's is whoever has the last fall, or the
Scramble's
most
the title.
The title, yeah. And then Mayhem's like all like they just keep flip-flopping the arena, really. Like the tables, ladders.
Yeah, you flip through. But for all the other matches, you can set like, do you want it to be a cage match, a tables match, a ladder match, a tables, cage, and ladder match.
Yeah, which is really just the environment. It has nothing to do with...
Yeah, it doesn't change necessarily like the arena.
Yeah, but it's still cool. We enjoyed playing Mayhem and watching it just cycle through different things because you break a table, guess what? A new one's coming.
And there's all bonuses and damage for how you interact with those things. So
you put me through tables, you jump through tables.
So you can, you can hit a grapple, and a lot of the grapples are like throw moves. So you can throw them into the cage, and that's a little bit of a extra damage.
It comes up a little thing that says cold steel.
Yep. If you jump off the top of the ladder and hit a strike, it says something, I think it says like high flying.
Yeah.
And then you can obviously do any move through the table, which does a significant amount of damage too. And then towards the end, I tried to hit a little combo on John where I jumped off of the ladder and tried to put him through the table, but the counter ran out and I wasn't able to execute it perfectly. But I'm pretty sure I'm in the middle of hitting the move when the counter hit 0 and it didn't count.
Yeah. Well, with that, we've talked about them enough. Let's go through this roster here.
Oh, yeah.
There's only 4, which I think is a downfall as well. I think there could be some more in here.
Now, do we want to split it? I know it's a heavy lift.
Oh, I think I could handle this
one.
Just as I watched in real time last night, Ric Flair struggle reading Japanese names. It felt like me reading a Fire Pro roster, but that's okay. All right, you have the Brawler, a bare-knuckle brawler named Aiden Walsh, who is very remnant of the developer of the game. If you go on the website and look him up, it kind of looks like him. Probably was modeled after him. His finishers are a DDT and a big clothesline. The High Flyer, who is known as the Storm, which is a high-flying luchador, has a big drop kick and a Hurricane Rana. The Striker, it's Sumihara, is a strong style fighter with a jumping knee strike and a suplex. And Damian Carter, who is the Showman, a fan favorite showboat with a power bomb and a fireman's carry. I like playing as Damian the most, I think.
I enjoyed playing as the Storm.
Yeah, you kicked my ass with the Storm. Luchas are always fun to play with because they just fly around the ring, and it's
absolutely
a lot of fun stuff. I did like that when you were doing moves here, you kind of had the mechanic that games have now where like you could do something into something. Like I think I grabbed you midair with a finisher. You grabbed me with like a DDT through a table, like midair.
No, that was you.
That was
you.
me?
You were the brawler. I went to go dash into you midair, and you got up
on our
and caught me with a
playthrough,
DDT.
I don't remember who it was, but
Yeah,
it was
you caught me with a
really
DDT.
cool.
It was nuts.
Yeah, and of course the sprites are all very well drawn out, and you could imagine what they look like because it's very, a brawler, a high-flying luchador. You could imagine what that looks like. A strong style fighter, you could imagine. It's just great. I like it.
The detail that went into the character design is great. Like I mentioned before, the shading in the tones of the hair and the shadows for like the muscle definition. Like it's such a cool little detail to see put into something that, they're little tiny pixel sprites.
And you have an entrance.
In the match. And you have an entrance with unique entrance music. And
the Brawler's music was pretty good.
What was the other game? Oh, and very similar to Retromania. The cage falls from the sky.
Yes. Yeah. I love that.
It's just like a fun little detail. And the moves and the matches are responsive on the screen. It's not a little tiny, or it's not a ton of screen shake, but there's like a little bit of like a screen rumble when you hit a big move and stuff like that. So there's nice little like immersive details that they put in to kind of hold your attention on the screen.
The Game Marks podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming, providing precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. The Performance Package 4.0 has arrived, and oh man, is it a game changer.
It's the ultimate men's hygiene bundle. The Performance Package 4.0 comes with the Lawnmower 4.0, body hair trimmer, the Weed Whacker, ear and nose hair trimmer, below the belt toner and deodorant, performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your goodies.
It's definitely holding all my goodies, if you know what I mean. Over 7 million men worldwide trust Manscaped with their grooming needs, and we've got an exclusive offer for all of the Game Marks out there. You can get 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping just by using the code GameMarks at manscaped.com.
Unlock your confidence and always use the right tool for the job with Manscaped. Manscaped.com and use code GameMarks.
Okay, let's talk. Here we go. We'll talk about the artwork and the art style now because it's a pretty damn good crowd, if I say so myself.
It is a good crowd.
It's very... The way it's set up is a little weird. Like it's got a row of seats, then a back behind them, then a row of seats, then a back behind them. So I don't think half the people, like a kid wouldn't be able to see in this arena. But that's okay. Maybe it's like a GCW show. It's like 18 and up. But
there's just a lot of you never know. There's scaffolds and cages and ladders. So things may go flying.
Yeah. I do like literally everything about this. The lighting, the big lighting rigs on the ceiling, because you need that big camera view for a brawling game because you have to brawl off the screen, up, top, down, low, on the platforms. So what they did with this is really cool and visually, like, it doesn't get in the way. Like when you're playing a game, you're not like, oh, there's too much going on the screen where I can't really see what's happening with my character. It's never like that. It's nice, dark, it's in the background, but it's also just visually cool. The ring is massive. It has to be exaggerated for a game like this. I just love this Jumbotron.
Yeah.
With the
everything,
time on
it. The presentation, we talked about it. I feel like this is now like the fourth or fifth time we're talking about it. Presentation is just stellar. Everything graphically, artistically about the game feels purposeful. There's nothing in here that's just filler. Everything is done with a reason and with a logic behind it of like, okay, we're going to put this here. And the thing that I appreciate the most is that it would have been very easy for them to take the crowd and just, do half of it and then, copy paste it, just flip it and set it to that way. And while the arena looks that way, the lighting effects and the crowd itself are not.
No,
So you could tell through those little details that it's not just like, the attention was paid to make all of these things individually correct.
Yeah, I can't say enough like how visually great this game is. Like it should be everywhere. And we'll talk about the ratings and reviews in just a little bit, but this game should be on everybody's radar, and I really hope that it catches. It's only 3 years out.
Yeah.
Is this a full release? I believe it is a 1.1 or something.
It does not say that it is early access anymore.
No, it did say when you loaded up the game what version it was, and it was past 1.0, so it has been out now for a while as like a full release.
Yeah,
I've been looking at a lot of games lately, so I don't know what's what anymore.
Let's see. I'm gonna open it up right quick, and I'll tell you the version that it's on right now. Version 1.1.2.
Okay, so yeah, 1.1.2. It's still so early in this game.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, the early access released April of 2018.
Okay.
So not bad. And I'm going to look at the update history here. Okay, so they're not as frequent with updates. The last one was June of 21.
Okay.
Which is not great, but seems like they were very consistent before that. I hope that they keep going with this. And I did see some reviews where the developers responded.
Yes.
And
yes.
they did say that stuff was still coming. So I really hope that that's the case, because this is a beautiful game. I hope it's just not abandoned and that's it.
Yeah, I'd be pretty bummed about that. I'm not gonna lie. This game has the potential in its current state to be like the big wrestling PC brawler. Like there's not a ton of competition here. This could be, you could really carve a nice little spot for yourself here.
Ooh, what are you carving over there? Yeah. Oh, so you know what I noticed in this that we didn't realize when we played through the first time?
Tell me.
In the HUD, not only is it a flag of where your character's from, but there's also a skull on the heels and a star on the baby faces.
Oh, yes.
So if you look up in the notes, and if you at home want to look on the website, there are different little profiles for each character. I noticed this before. The brawler and the striker have skulls behind them, when the high flyer and the showman, who is a fan favorite showboat, have stars. So they're the baby faces.
You are absolutely correct.
And also, when you look at the picture in Steam, the baby faces are on one side and the heels are on the other. Would you look at that? Yeah. Yeah, and I noticed these little things because, this is what I do. But also, did you know?
Gonna have to change your name to Johnny Details.
Did you know InWave Labs was composed of a team of 3, Ken Goff, Phil Giarusso, and Orb Soundwex, with Kenny now being the core programmer and
Did you know Double Turn includes 21 different Steam achievements?
Did you know Double Turn is still on Steam for only $4.99?
Oh, baby.
Yeah, I believe Kenny Goff is the leader here, with Phil Giarusso was the artist that was on board, and Orb Soundwex, as you could tell by the name, did all the music and sound effects. So that's a nice team right there. Just have 3 guys, each have their own niche, and they do what they do.
And look what they were able to create. It's awesome.
Yeah. Okay, but now let's get into these ratings and reviews. I pulled one up here that I think is the most critical to what this game is. It has a mixed rating on Steam. There's only 17 ratings, which I think is it's a little not many, and a lot of them are early access. Some of them just say love this game. Some of them just say really good first impression. And like we said before, there's not much to show here. So I'm going to read this one. This is the latest one that the most people found helpful. It says, the game seems cool, but devs are absent and haven't pushed any updates in a while now. My advice, see if there has been an updates before buying. Original review, very cool character design and pixel art, nice control and moves, very little content, 4 playable characters in 1 stage, which is weird because the stage is named, so I assume there was more, but there's not.
Yeah.
Controllers not working on Linux. Well, get off Linux. What is this? Partial controller support, which we said before it has full controller support, so that's interesting. And I appreciate this being available on Linux. Wouldn't advise to buy at its current state. Wait for more updates and content. And this is from May of 2019. So this is probably still early access.
Yeah.
Now, the developer posted on September 4th of 2020, sorry you had issues with the controllers. I fixed some of the keyboard-only menus and now have full controller support. There you go. For the controllers not working, I posted a thread in the Steam forums under bugs and support with a tool to help troubleshoot controller issues if you still have those problems. In regards to the lack of updates, you're absolutely right. I wasn't as active or communicative for too long. If it helps, I've been able to put out a few updates in the last couple of months. I've been making sure to keep an eye out on the forums as well, and that's from Kenny Goff. And I would still like to know the status. I reached out to Kenny on Twitter, and maybe by the time this episode airs, we're going to have some questions we could add into here now.
That'd be great.
If not, then we're going to carry on with this episode.
Yeah.
But it would be cool to just hear more about this game. And that's the cool part about these indie devs. We could just reach out to them and hopefully find something here. But again, another game for the Mac OS. I love it. I've kind of left that life behind me, but I just love knowing that it's there.
It's been there all along, John. This game was just waiting for you to find it.
Just waiting for me. I think this is around the time I got my PC anyway, and didn't care.
Yes, you joined the vast majority of the easier gaming world.
Also, like I'm thinking now, like this room I'm in, this beautiful little cave, is slowly gonna start becoming not my room anymore. And especially if kid number 2 comes, this room is gone.
Yeah.
So
as of recording, this room may not really exist, or of the release, this.
No, it's still mine. Okay, for the time being.
Where are all those things gonna go?
They're staying right there. But eventually, like this big computer rig I have here with this giant desk, 2 monitors. Well, I don't know what's going to happen. I might have to get like a gaming laptop or something, or a Steam Deck.
Or the monitor thing can be solved space wise. You can get a smaller desk, but have I
like big desks.
The up and down monitors. You can have one centered and then one above it, so they're not side by side. Then you can have.
Sounds terrible.
It takes up less space on a desk. So
we'll see. But anyway,
tucked away in a corner somewhere.
Anyway. It's time to rate the game.
Would you look at the time?
The game!
All right, George Feis, give me your first impression. Give me your thoughts. Will you play it forever?
Woo!
Or future endeavor?
All right, so I'm going to lead with the fact that it's getting to play it forever. I think that it is a very graphically interesting game. It's a pretty game to look at, and that's a nice added bonus to a otherwise solid control scheme. Do I wish that there were a little bit more of an expansive move set? Yes, but who knows? Maybe by the time this comes out, and you guys are listening to it, maybe we're on the next version of the build, and there are some additional strikes and grapples and stuff like that. I know usually we say that we tend to take away the multiplayer aspect of a game because most games are more fun when you play them with your friends, but that's kind of the general basis of this game, is to be played with your friends. So I think that this actually kind of works in its favor for this, because this game is very fun when you play it with your friends, because it's designed to be that. So I think that actually works in its favor, and in this one instance is allowed. A little swap in how we do the rules here, because it's a multiplayer mainly multiplayer based game, but yeah, the big old play it forever from me. And now, Johnny Clash, I turn the question over to you. Will you play it forever or future endeavor.
All right. You kind of said what I was going to say, how we say it doesn't count if it's a multiplayer game, but I feel like in this case, you have to, because the solo play is literally just playing a computer over and over again.
Yeah.
But, yeah, it's a play it forever, because if we were ever on a stream or something and you were like, hey, let's play this, I would be like, hell yeah, let's play it.
Like this, Super Blood Hockey, these are the games that are made for Twitch streams.
That's what it looks like. Super Blood Hockey. I love it. I love it. Yeah. There's just always a need for a game like this. It's a party game. If maybe we're on a stream, or maybe we're doing a live episode again and we need something to play. Maybe we're just in our Discord, just me and you streaming just for them. There's something. I like
whenever
it.
You got some downtime to do that, you let me know.
There's no downtime anymore.
I was just going to say, I think that's why we're doing this episode, is because your downtime is gone.
But it's a double play it forever from us, and I like it.
Hell yes. But with that, John, is it time for us to talk about the soft lock for this week? Okay, so the Soft Lock is a weekly segment where one of our mega marks from our Patreon gives us a topic to debate, discuss. Sometimes it's a question of the week, and this week the question comes from Tecker. And Tecker would like to know, as we get older and have less time dedicated to quote-unquote beat video games, how do you feel about watching playthroughs of a video game opposed to playing the actual game? Do you feel you are being cheated out of the experience by not actually experiencing the gameplay as it was meant to be? Now, I'm going to let you kick us off for this one, because this is a very timely question, as your time dedicated to play video games is becoming less and less with the big life events. So kick us off here, Mr. Clash.
Well, this is why I mostly play like single player games that are not very long anymore. Like, this is why I play sports games and whatnot. I could pick it up when everyone's asleep and just kind of play one or two and call it a night and be done with it. Yeah. Now, this really comes to me with The Last of Us, because The Last of Us 1, this is something a friend told me years ago. He was an Xbox guy and he was talking about The Last of Us, and I was like, "What? How do you even know? Like, what? You didn't have this game?" He's like, "No, but I watched it." And I was like, "You watched it? What the hell?" So that's a game I beat on PS3. I beat on PS4. And then I watched through to like refresh myself before the second one came out. And then just recently, I binged it all with the show so I could get the comparisons. So I've had 2 playthroughs and 2 watch throughs of The Last of Us 1. It sounds crazy, but if you if you watch it in double speed, like just in the background, and like skip the combat, there's even versions with the combat skipped and just the story stuff. It's only a couple hours. You do a few each day. It's like watching a show.
Yeah.
Again, still sounds crazy. Now, The Last of Us 2. This game's been out a while. It's a 25-hour game. I have not sat at this computer for that long other than to stare at George's face. So I believe I'm only maybe 6 hours, 7, 8 hours into the game. Nothing crazy. I haven't gotten into the meat of it. But I said, I'm never going to come up here and sit at this computer, because that's where my PlayStation is hooked up, and play The Last of Us 2. It's just not going to happen. It's not in the cards anymore. Same with Death Stranding. I'm not going to watch that one because it's probably super boring to watch. I'm just done. Like, I'm not going to play it. It's just off my list. Eventually, I'll come back to it because it's a great game, but I'm done. So I started watching The Last of Us 2. And you still feel the scenes. You still...
Everything that happens.
It's a 24-hour, I think, playthrough I'm watching. Like, I'm watching the one with everything, because then I imagine the one I'm going to watch or play through, hopefully, before season 2 comes out of the show, will be just the cutscenes. And hopefully somewhere in the next 2 years, I could just actually beat the full game itself.
Oh, yeah. I didn't even think about that.
What?
That you're we have so much time between.
Oh yeah.
The second, because
you might actually watch House of the Dragon before that season 2 comes out. I might finish first Game of Thrones before that time comes out.
Look, you could in theory watch the entire Last of Us part 1, then the entire series season 1, then the game part 2, and still have a year before.
Yeah. So I'm hoping to at least finish the watch through, and then by that time, hopefully it's on PC and it's more accessible to me anyway, and I could play it on a Steam Deck or a laptop or something.
Maybe by the time that you're done watching the playthrough, we'll have some cast indications of some major characters.
Yeah, some of these suggestions for Abby are just absolutely ridiculous. Gina Carano, get the fuck out of here.
No,
that's not happening ever.
No, thank you. First of all,
she's been with Pedro in one show. Oh, okay.
But the age difference is very, it's so, that's not right.
Yeah, no, terrible. But all right, what's your take? Anyway, to answer the question, no, I don't feel cheated by the experience. I actually feel like, okay, I'm fulfilled. Like I finished it.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. Video games are expensive. And that's another big part of it, is that you may be very interested in playing the games and want to support the developers and all that stuff. But, every year games become more expensive to get, and consoles are at an all-time high. So to get a good feel of whether or not you truly are interested in a game, I think watching a little bit of a playthrough storyline is a good gauge. But yeah, it's also super nice to, sit down and have that movie experience. Like, I've done it with The Last of Us. I don't have any of my copies of the Assassin's Creed series anymore, but like to go back and watch those video playthroughs are all so cool, because that storyline is so.
Yeah. If it's like a 10, 12-hour game, it's super easy too.
Yeah. And just, you've played one Assassin's Creed game in that first 4-5 game series. There's not a ton of changes from the gameplay style, so it's not like you're missing out on the gameplay experience if you've played it. But just to go back and be like, we'd love to relive this story. Like, I think that's great. I think that's a totally fine thing. I've done it before. Done it with all the Metal Gear Solid games 3 or 4 times over the course of the last 10 years. That's something that I did during the pandemic. We talked so much, I feel like, about the pandemic this episode, but I went through and I watched all the Metal Gear Solid games.
I would like to do it with Resident Evil, because I don't think
that's another good one.
It's just like a big series that I'll never get to play through all of them. I've played through
There's too many games for you to go back and play all of them. It's way too many.
Yeah. It's probably next on my list, to be honest.
There you go.
So I could play the newer ones, the ones that are available.
All right. Well, thank you very much, Tecker, for that question. John, would you like to tell the fine people at home what we are doing next week? Because we're not playing a game. We're going back to a tried and true fan favorite, or at least a host favorite episode style.
We are going back to our best and worst of series. We recently did cage matches and ladder matches, but now we are going to do the best and worst backstage arenas.
Well, I'm going to save us some time. It's WWF New York, and thanks for coming. That's 2 episodes in one.
No, there's way more than
there's way more than that.
There's way more.
That's an honorable mention.
I believe that's where I beat you as China once, but we'll get to that.
I Kane?
I think so, yeah.
Oh, yeah. He kicked my ass. All right, guys. YouTube.com/Game Marks Podcast for our weekly playthrough videos, exclusive content, and more. Game Marks Pod on all forms of social media. GameMarksPod.com/shop for all of our exclusive merchandise. I cannot talk. Exclusive merchandise. ProWrestlingTees.com/GameMarksPod for our shirts. And I'm telling you now, by the time you are hearing this, there is a Daddy Clash shirt on our Pro Wrestling Tees store. I don't know what we're putting before it at the time of recording, but it exists by the time you're hearing this episode. So please go and support the only dad of this podcast, Daddy Clash. Patreon.com/GameMarksPod for this show early and ad-free for only $5. And if I was going to skip a part, but I can't do that. If you would be so kind, ladies and gentlemen, as to like, comment,
I
subscribe,
thought you were gonna forget about it.
ring that notification bell.
Oh, I woke the baby.
Oh, yeah, the bell. Maybe the bell might have to go on a little hiatus there. Oh, man. And leave us a 5-star review and rating on both Apple Podcast and Spotify. And if you have a product or service that you would like to advertise on this podcast, please make sure to reach out to us at gamemarkspod@gmail.com. All right. That's it. Another backlogged episode. Hope you enjoyed this one. Daddy clashed. Do that thing.
Game over, Marks.
Game Marks Podcast, put them on the radar. Playing rare games, Sega Saturn, no Game Shark. Johnny and George work hard and they play hard. Future Endeavor games and put them in the graveyard. From the deep dive to the clash at the feast. How can I get more? That's question of the week. Follow on Twitch, there's nothing that they won't play. Game Marks Podcast every single Monday.